Number 10. The worst first anniversary. A man in New Hampshire got into a heated argument with his wife, who was roughly 2 decades younger than him. The argument took place in a small bus that they had converted into a traveling house. They used the bus as a camper for living and traveling while on the road. After the argument, the man returned to the actual house that he shared with his wife, only she wasn't with him. Joseph Ferlazzo, 41 years old, shot his wife Emily, only 22 years old, and then chopped up her body. Yes, it's just as gruesome as it sounds. Joseph killed his wife inside their Chevrolet Express bus in the middle of their vacation to Vermont. The couple took the vacation to celebrate their first-year wedding anniversary, but the anniversary went terribly wrong. Joseph proved to be a complete psychopath. Joseph also did a very poor job of concealing his crime. Investigators found their camper with his wife's remains still inside, and physical evidence of the brutal murder everywhere. According to the people close to the case, the couple had gotten married the previous October after being engaged for only a month. And despite Joseph admitting to the police what he had done, his attorney William Kidney has pleaded him not guilty. But he is guilty. He admitted it. Joseph told the police that he and his wife had gotten into an argument about the camper. She threw a temper tantrum and started punching and kicking him. This enraged the older man so severely that he grabbed a handgun, pinned her down on the bed, and shot her twice in the head. The next morning, he went for breakfast with his sister. Then he drove the bus 60 miles away and dumped it. Oh yeah, but before he left, he used a handsaw to cut off her feet, legs, arms, and head. And instead of trying to cover up his crime and dispose of the body parts, he just left them in trash bags inside the camper, not even bothering to throw them away. Number 9. Psychopathic father. A father from Melbourne, Australia, killed his daughter and son-in-law in a chilling double murder. He committed this savage act on the first anniversary of their wedding. According to news sources, the father was angry because his daughter's husband never asked for permission to go ahead with the wedding. He brooded for a whole year before finally getting his bizarre revenge. On December 31, 2019, Lindita Musai and her husband Vitan were executed on their doorstep. Lindita Musai's father, Osman, was the one who pulled the trigger. In February, he pleaded guilty to the double murder and is now looking at spending the rest of his life in prison. It was a pretty sad anniversary for the couple. In the hours before they were killed, they were celebrating at a local hotel. They caught an Uber back to their house, which they shared with Lindita's parents. At the same time, her father was driving around in his car aimlessly, with an unregistered handgun loaded and ready to go in his seat. He drove back home at about 8:30 in the morning, but the couple hadn't come back yet. He drove around some more and returned at 10:30. The couple was about to walk inside the house. As they approached the front door, he came up behind them and shot each one in the back of the head. This is where he thought his story would end. He walked across the street to a park and shot himself in the face, but it didn't kill him. He was taken to the hospital and had the bullet extracted from his skull and his right eye surgically removed. He now has brain damage and will still have to spend the remainder of his life in jail. Number 8. Killing the husband. Just one day before her wedding anniversary, Sandra Melger killed her husband. It was all part of a bizarre life insurance scheme for the Texas woman to get filthy rich while getting rid of her annoying husband at the same time. Sandra thought she was being clever when she staged a home invasion the night before their 32nd anniversary. She stabbed her husband Jamie 31 times, enough to make sure he was dead. Then, she tied herself up and hid in a bedroom closet. This little act was supposed to convince police that robbers broke in, stabbed her husband, and left her tied, but otherwise unharmed in the closet. When police investigated the crime, they saw it did not match Sandra's story. And when they learned about the life insurance policy she had on her husband for $500,000, all the pieces fell into place. She was sentenced to 27 years in jail. When the judge read the verdict of guilty, she put her hands over her face and howled like a wolf. That was the moment she realized she made a big mistake. All those plans, all those sleepless nights dreaming about how she would spend the money, all turned sour in her mouth as she screamed. Number 7. The Cruise from Hell. Kenneth Manzanares was the man from Utah who got sentenced to 30 years in prison for killing his wife in 2017. He took his wife on a cruise to Alaska as part of their wedding anniversary. Not only did he bring his wife on this trip, but their 3 daughters and extended family all traveled with them. They departed to Seattle, bound for Alaska, but everything turned bad one evening when they got into an argument. Christy, his wife, finally admitted that she wanted a divorce. She didn't care if it was their wedding anniversary. She was done with this guy. She demanded that he get off the boat at the next stop and go home to Utah by himself. The argument happened while 2 of their daughters were in the room. Kenneth calmly asked them to leave, and when they were gone, he started beating his wife. The daughters heard the shouting and ran back in the room to save their mother, but it was too late. She was already dead. Kenneth then turned his attention to them. He tried to throw one of his daughters off the balcony, but was stopped at the last second when his brother-in-law ran into the room and saved the day. It was arguably the worst cruise ever, and Kenneth was arrested and taken to jail as soon as they made their next stop. Recently, Kenneth was discovered dead in his prison cell. Do you think Kenneth being found dead in prison is karma for what he did to his family? Let us know your thoughts on this terrifying case in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe before the end of the video. Number 6. Bludgeoned after 17 years. Bhupinder Gill and his mistress, Gurpreet Renaud, have been found guilty in a Canadian court for their horrifying murder of Gill's wife back in 2014. They were found guilty in 2016 as well, but had the convictions overturned on an appeal. They had to have their second trial, at which point they were found guilty yet again. The murder happened on January 29, 2014. Jagtar Gill was discovered inside her home in Ottawa, dead from being stabbed and beaten. It was her 17th anniversary to her husband, and she had been recovering from hernia surgery. And yet at the same time, her husband was seeing a different woman. He'd been seeing her for years, and it was time for them to get rid of the one person in their way, Gill's wife. The plot was disturbing. The murderers waited until the day after Jagtar had her hernia surgery. They thought she would be the most vulnerable when she was in pain, disoriented, and on drugs. It was Renaud herself, the mistress, who committed the murder. She stabbed Jagtar over 25 times and inflicted 20 injuries by blunt force. The husband was around, but he didn't physically do the killing. He simply planned everything and then tried to help them get away with it. But it didn't work. And now both are stuck in jail forever. Number 5. Hit and Run Anniversary. Juliana Moore is the widow of a wealthy British businessman who died in a hit-and-run incident in Ukraine. The tragedy happened as the couple was celebrating their first wedding anniversary together. His name was Barry Pring, and the vehicle that struck him caused injuries so severe that he died later on in the hospital. Barry was struck by a car with a stolen license plate as he stood outside a restaurant in Kiev with his wife. This was on February 16, 2008. The couple had gotten married the year before, after meeting online. Juliana had made an account on one of those European wife finder websites. She managed to snag herself a wealthy man almost 20 years older than her. For Juliana, it was a big success. But here's the thing. She may have plotted the murder to get rid of her husband and take his money. She denies all these accusations. Still, it's been alleged that she hired somebody to run her husband over and make it look like an accident. It doesn't help that the police were unable to find the killer, making it impossible to prove. There was an investigation, but simply not enough proof to charge Juliana with any kind of crime. Number 4. An Irish boating trip. Stephen McKinney from Ireland killed his wife during a boating trip that they took to the Irish countryside to celebrate their wedding anniversary. His wife, Lou Na McKinney, was originally from China, but fell in love with an Irishman, as the song goes. They had a nice little family together with 2 children. Stephen hired a boat for 3 nights as a treat for all of them and to celebrate their anniversary. The couple moored on a secluded part of Devonish Island and spent the evening with their kids, having a few drinks and playing Monopoly. According to Stephen, Lou Na got up in the middle of the night to check on the boat because she thought it was moving. She couldn't swim, and so when she slipped and fell into the water, she wound up drowning. But this isn't actually what happened. Police found inconsistencies that led to Stephen being charged with the murder. When he called the police, he claimed that he couldn't find his wife to get her out of the water. But when the police arrived, they could clearly see her body floating right beside the shore. This was obviously a lie. He also tried to tell the police that they had a happy marriage, but investigators discovered his wife had been trying to get a divorce for the past 3 months. It also turned out that Stephen was controlling, manipulative, and coercive. Police even discovered that he had taken a final creepy photograph of his wife, asleep, as a token to remember her by. Minutes after taking that last picture, he drowned her in the lake. In the end, it was clear that he murdered her on purpose. The jury took less than 2 hours to find him guilty of murder. The court sentenced him to a maximum of 20 years in prison. Number 3. Incurable road rage. A man in North Carolina was so consumed with road rage that he shot a mother of 6 to death. This woman, Judy Eberly, was from Mannheim in Pennsylvania. She was on a trip celebrating her wedding anniversary when she had the unfortunate luck of bumping into Dejuan Floyd on the road. Her husband Ryan was behind the wheel of their GMC Yukon. He accidentally cut off the driver of another vehicle on Interstate 95 South. His accidental cutoff forced the vehicle onto the shoulder. It was an accident, and everyone should have just moved on with their lives. Instead, Dejuan, so angry that he had been cut off, followed the couple, pulled up next to their window, and fired his gun into their car. His bullet only hit Julie, killing the mom and leaving her children with only one parent. Number 2. The death of the animal. WWE's Road Warrior Animal died while trying to have a romantic getaway with his wife for their wedding anniversary. His real name is Joseph Laurinaitis. Joseph was with his wife Kimberly at the Margaritaville Lake Resorts in Missouri. He had organized a romantic evening for them, which began with a fancy dinner and ended with them returning to their room. He had spread rose petals on the sheets and put out a gift basket. Everything just looked great, but once they were in the room and things started to heat up, the Road Warrior Animal collapsed on the bed. His wife shrieked and tried to perform CPR, but Joseph died right there in front of her. The coroner reported that he died of a heart attack. It was just 10 days after his 60th birthday when he perished, gasping for air, on a bed of rose petals. And number 1. Unsolved mystery in Cancun. A firefighter from Texas who was celebrating his wedding anniversary with a trip to a Mexican resort was found dead. Elijah Snow was a firefighter in Arlington. He went to Cancun with his wife Jamie for an all-inclusive week of fun in the sun. But the trip wasn't that fun, considering Elijah was discovered dead with his body stuck in a hotel bathroom window. On Monday night, the couple were at the hotel bar. Jamie returned to their room, and Elijah stayed behind to have some drinks. When Jamie woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, Elijah still hadn't returned, and she contacted the authorities. Mexican police found him several miles away from the hotel he was staying with his wife, in a different hotel, stuck in the window. The coroner said he died from mechanical asphyxiation. Mexican officials said it was just an accident, yet nobody knows what he was doing in the hotel, who he was with, or why in the world he tried to climb through the window. His family is positive Elijah was murdered. They don't have proof, but they have hired their own private investigator to look into the case. It just makes no sense that he abandoned his wife on their anniversary to go to a random hotel. It makes even less sense that he accidentally died trying to escape through the window. Thanks for watching. What's the most horrifying thing that's ever happened to you on an anniversary? Tell us about it in the comments below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll see you on the next one.